Hi everyone, Derek Johnson with Tatango.com. Today I'm at Innovista Law, the home of the TCPA Defense Force. And I'm talking with Ernesto Mendieta. And I'm asking him some questions that mobile marketers have questions about when it comes to text message marketing and compliance with the TCPA. So one of the questions we get asked all the time are what types of messages and or businesses are exempt from the Telephone Consumer Protection Act?
Yes, I understand the question. And one thing that is important to remember before we actually get to the exceptions is to know to what text messages the TCPA is applicable to.
Okay.
We have to be talking about robocall started messages. If you manually text someone, if you grab your phone, text someone, the TCPA won't be applicable. So we have to know that we're not talking about those messages.
Okay, so if somebody gets out their phone, text messages a customer and says, hey, I'd love to see you today, or your package is ready, but somebody actually took out their phone and texted that consumer's number, that wouldn't fall under the TCPA.
You don't have to worry about the TCPA.
Okay, so me text messaging you every night and saying, hey, what are you doing? I can't be sued for that.
No problem. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so now we know that it has to be, what do you say, robocalled?
Robocall.
Robocalled. So it's essentially, not robots are doing it, but it's software.
Correct.
Okay, so what businesses and messages, now that we know that that is not applicable, are exempt from the TCPA?
So the FCC has recognized that the TCPA, by regulating automated or robocalls for text messaging, can be too broad. They have recognized certain specific messages that are desirable, that people want to receive, that they're time sensitive and can be for emergency purposes.
Okay.
So the FCC, recognizing that there are these messages that consumers are willing to receive and would benefit from them, has imposed certain exceptions to certain industries. We can talk about them, but the FCC recognizes the broadness of the TCPA and avoiding to chill companies from sending texts that would need to be there, would prevent companies from.
So they're looking, the TCPA and the FCC are eventually, or at the end, they're looking out for the consumer's best interest. So they're saying, well, maybe if you're a brand sending messages about burrito discounts, that one definitely falls under the TCPA.
Correct.
But there are some things that, maybe aren't as important as a burrito discount.
Correct. Let me give you some examples. There's industry-specific exceptions. For example, package delivery.
Okay.
If you order something through any salesman, it's going to get to your house. You're expecting them to inform you if you have to sign, when you have to be home.
Okay.
So you as a consumer, you would like to receive that message that your package is on the way, it will be there in 1 hour, please be available for signature.
Okay.
So the FCC has issued a package delivery exception that for any text messages that actually relates to the delivery of the package, they will be able to send it without worrying about the TCPA.
Okay, that's really specific.
Very specific, and the problem is, it doesn't give the certainty to package delivery companies that they're under an industry extent exception, but the FCC has made clear that every exception is text specific. Let's say if a company is sending a message, each message must comply with a number of requirements that the FCC imposes for them to be exempt.
Okay, so you're saying that if I'm a package company, but let's say I'm not sending messages about your package being available or when it's coming, that doesn't mean that you as a company are just completely exempt from the TCPA.
Correct.
So it's the text message and the content of the text message and what the text message is about, that is exempt from the TCPA.
Exactly.
Man, this is confusing.
Yes, and it happens in several industries. Package delivery was just example. We have for the health industry. You as a patient, you want your doctor to contact you. You want your pharmacy to let you know that your next prescription is ready. But again, the health industry is exempt, but each specific message must comply with several requirements.
So if you're, let's say, like a pharmacy, if you sent out a reminder about your prescription, that's not covered. You'd be exempt from that. But if the pharmacy sent out a marketing text message saying 20% off, things in our pharmacy, that would not apply.
Correct, because you're entering the realm of telemarketing. You have to be if the exception is for the health industry, it has to be for health treatment purposes.
Okay.
So there's always got to be a close relationship between the text message and the reason why there was an exception.
That's really interesting because I think a lot of people in the industry think that if you are a health company or if you are a package delivery company, you're just completely exempt. You can do anything. And that's not the case.
That's the general idea, because they have heard that there's this exception
exceptions
for the health industry, but it's very specific, and the analysis, if it's exempt or not, will be on a case-by-case basis.
Based on the content of the text message.
Specific text message.
Okay, so you have healthcare companies, package delivery companies, which is so specific. That's crazy. And then what other industries or kinds of text messages?
Yes, and I will continue giving you examples, but let's always keep in mind these are messages that are important, that are time sensitive, and we're thinking of the consumer.
Okay.
Messages that they are desiring to receive.
Yep.
Another industry, let's call it industry, is schools, education.
Yep.
Parents have given the schools their wireless number, so they're interested in receiving a message by the school that is closely related to the educational mission. Meaning something happened with their kid, the change for the time that they can go and pick them up at the school changed. Anything that is closely related to the educational mission is gonna enter.
So the mission of the school.
Yes.
Okay.
But please keep in mind, I'm giving you
It's
a broad explanation, but
yeah.
again,
because raising money could be the mission of the school. It could be sports like football games. So really, I think if you are one of these kinds of businesses, always consult an attorney.
Yes, because the criticism to these exceptions that the FCC grants, because these industries actually gather together, they go to the FCC and say, please exempt us because we're sending these messages to parents regarding their kids.
Okay.
But the FCC goes back and grants these exceptions, but it's being very specific, setting requirements that each message has to include, like you probably know about all of this, but it's they have to have opt-out requirements. They have to identify exactly who is sending the message.
So there's specific requirements also for those kinds of messages. So really, just because you are a package delivery company does not mean you have carte blanche, or even you're sending package text messages. Always consult an attorney.
Always consult an attorney.
Because there's just so many nuances.
Yes.
Okay. So besides those, what other ones we got?
We have utilities companies.
Utility,
Again, it's a perfect example of I'm a consumer of a utility. I want to know if the service is gonna shut down. If they're gonna,
like
is there gonna be an outage? Of
Okay.
water. I want to know my water company to let me know.
Okay.
From this time to this time, there's not gonna be water running through your house because maintenance.
Now, one question I get asked a lot is, how do those brands, like the schools or the utility companies, how do they get my phone number? Do I have to give the phone number to them, or can they just somehow find out my phone number? Is there any restrictions on that?
Yes, these exceptions, and I'm saying like each exception got its own requirements.
Okay, a little different.
A pretty common requirement is saying yes, you can call them and you won't be subject to the TCPA liability, but you have to call them to the number, to the wireless number that they gave you.
Okay, so they would have to, so if I go to, let's say, a large online retailer and I don't give them my mobile phone number, and let's say they're delivering my package, they couldn't text message me most likely. I would have to give my phone number first, and then they could say, okay, because it's a package alert, that's okay to message that person.
Correct.
Okay, so
the FCC saying,
this is complicated.
Yes, these exceptions, each exception, it's a whole level of regulation and effects that need to be understood, need to be applied correctly, and still, you need to be conservative to actually be under the exception and avoid any risk under the TCPA.
Any other businesses that would have kind of an exception?
There's another big area that is political campaigns.
Okay, that's hot nowadays.
It is. So what the FCC has not accepted them, but they have granted them the idea that they are considered as informational messages.
Okay,
so
not
even
marketing.
Not marketing and non-solicitation. Even if they're calling on behalf of a campaign and they're requesting certain funding or they're inviting you to a certain event, the FCC has considered those as informational. So they're not actually exempted, they're just classifying them in a certain level that brings the level or the requirement of consent to a lower level than telemarketing that would require to be prior written consent. For informational, they don't get to that high level of.
And by telemarketing, you mean essentially in our industry, text messaging, like marketing, sending out a burrito discount.
Correct.
Okay. What about nonprofits? Because it's kind of interesting because schools might be nonprofits, politicals are not really, but they're kind of nonprofit. Like, are any nonprofits exempt?
Yes, you bring a great point, Derek. Nonprofits have different levels of exemption. So let's start. First, nonprofits. If a call is made by a nonprofit or on behalf of a nonprofit, it's in comparison with the political campaigns, it's considered as non-solicitation.
Okay.
So again, even if you're calling to get money, even if the nonprofit is calling you're soliciting.
Okay.
The FCC has said since it's by or on behalf of a nonprofit, it's non-solicitation. What effect does this have is by being non-solicitation, the nonprofit does not have the obligation to scrub their numbers against the do not call registry.
Okay.
So they can actually call those numbers.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Okay.
And the other effect is that they do not have to have a personal or the company inside do not call list.
Okay.
In comparison to any other company, their companies are required to have their own do not call list. If each consumer opted out of their consent, you would have a record or a database of who you should not contact.
For each company,
Yeah, nonprofits do not have that requirement.
Okay.
And just the other exemption for nonprofits is you do not, the FCC has granted that you do not the written previous consent to actually contact them. You do need consent, the prior consent, but not written. So
you have to give your phone number to the nonprofit. So the nonprofits cannot, and I don't even know if there's any businesses that without giving up your phone number, they can text message you. Do you know, is there any industries or business where it's like, I didn't give you my phone number, but under the TCPA, it's okay to send me a text message?
Good, and you're taking me where I wanted to get at the end. The general exemption, let's remember it's for emergency text messages.
Okay.
What is emergency for the FCC is like any text messages that is necessary to prevent harm to health or safety.
Okay.
So answering your question is, could you call a number that you didn't get consent or you didn't get it directly for the consumer? We would have to analyze the emergency part of it.
So like a city, you're saying if it was like a natural disaster was happening and they got all the phone numbers of the people that live in that city and I didn't ever give my phone number to the city, they could text message.
Yes.
I didn't even know that. That's interesting.
Example, living here in DC, I have the occasional text messages that there was an accident in the metro. And it's like, don't go to this station and this station. I never gave my phone number to the metro company, but since I have a local number that identifies that I'm in DC, they will send me an emergency alert. Yes.
I had no clue about that. I always thought you had to get permission. Now, it's always good to get permission. It doesn't hurt. You know, so if you sign up for subway alerts or whatever.
You should. My idea is you should, because at the end, you would end up in a fight of actually proving that it was for an emergency purposes, proving that the emergency was there and it was necessary.
Because you might not even take the subway, so then it's like, oh, that was just a pain.
So it's, the advice continues to be, whatever you send the text messages, go to an attorney.
Okay.
And
that sounds
verify that you're in compliance with the TCPA.
Man, so there's three different ones. There's businesses, which are marketing, soliciting. That one you have to get permission. You know, they have to opt in. Then there's kind of the middle ground, which is some of the healthcare, nonprofits. What else were there?
Schools.
Package alerts, that if they give the phone number, but maybe they don't consent to certain things. That's one. And then on the very other side, there's emergency, which is almost kind of a free-for-all. You can text message them if it is deemed an emergency.
Yes.
I'm going to have most likely brands being like, it is an emergency that people know about this 50% off sale.
No, never. If it includes solicitation, it's not going to happen.
Okay, that's good to know. That'll help a lot of people. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk to everyone soon. Thanks again. Thanks for watching our video today. If you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up on YouTube. If you want to see more of these types of videos, be sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have comments or questions, please leave a comment or question in the comment section below.